Right, hello everybody. It's Nikki Bush from Toy Talk, and I'm back once again with Gareth Woods, who is the gaming guru from Gaming Ventures. Gareth is a colleague and friend of mine. He talks tech, I talk toys. So this morning we're talking tech toys. And with the festive season upon us, we know that today parents and families don't just have a toy budget. And I've been doing Toy Talk presentations for years and years and years and years. In days gone by, we had one budget, and that budget had to cover toys and tech. But Gareth, today I find that parents have two budgets. One is for the real toys, of which, of course, everybody knows I am the toy queen, and every child needs real games and toys in order to map the world and to create meaning and stimulate all those very important perceptual skills in 3D. But there is a second budget now too, and that is for tech toys, because we don't live in an either or world, we live in an and world where our children do engage with the world in both a real and a virtual sense. So this morning, having done in our first interview, chatted about the hardware of gaming in the home, today we want to move on to some of the software, and we're going to be looking at some games for the younger generation. And by this we mean from preschoolers into primary school, probably until about age 10. Yes, Gareth?
Yeah, that sounds about right. And it's important to subdivide that, because I think too often we hear stories of, I don't know, let's talk about the violence in games and whatever. It's in the same way as you wouldn't let your child watch an X-rated movie. There's also X-rated games. And so we can't use this ubiquitous term of just like games are good or games are bad. It's the same as going movies are good or movies are bad. Like they are both in terms of the content, but also the production value. There are bad games, just they are poorly made, but also bad games for your children because they are adult themed and all that.
Content.
So 100%, and it's the same with movies, but for some reason with games, it feels like parents just, there's some who don't want to engage. They just go, all games are bad, or they do this absentee parenting thing of going, oh, my kids play whatever they want, they're just games.
Yeah. So
like, what does it matter?
So just to pick up on that, it's about families finding their middle ground. It's about being present. It's about knowing the kind of content that your children are engaging with. And going back to something we picked up on in the first interview, we spoke about BT games, where you could go and buy either new games or used games at a lower price. And there they do actually check your child's ID, or if your child is underage, they check your ID as a parent. You are standing surety.
Yeah, got him.
And I will never forget taking my child to go and buy a secondhand game one day and standing behind a mum and her son at BT Games. And the child was 9. Now, my child was in his teens at that point. The child was 9. And I remember the guy behind the counter saying, "Madam," because the mother obviously was buying the game because this child was young. "Madam, you do know that the game that you are allowing your child to buy has a 16 violence, language, nudity rating." So the child was 9. This had a 16 rating. And I remember just nearly falling off my chair with the mother going, "Oh, it's fine. He can play with whatever he likes. It's fine by me."
Yeah.
And so her child was able to get that game.
Yeah, and you can't stop them because they are the parents at the end of the day. They do make the legal decisions. Yeah.
But just understand, to the parents who are watching, we are the gatekeepers. And so we need to be aware of the kind of content that's around and what is age appropriate for our children, because when it's not age appropriate, it can send your child into spaces they shouldn't be in. It could introduce them to content they shouldn't be exposed to.
Yeah.
And when things are a bit scary, it actually can put them into a bit of post-traumatic stress. So we do need to be aware of that.
We're talking about the very overt stuff like we do with movies, where we go, it's violence, sex, language, all that sort of stuff. But a lot of time, especially in games, it's morally gray content. They're not as overt as going, it's violence and gore, because that is disturbing. Adult games, or they're pitched at 18 plus audience, just because they're morally provocative in terms of your character might have to make a decision between saving the life of one person at the expense of hundreds, or vice versa, save hundreds at the expense of someone that they love. And so it's not that that's like overtly disturbing, but you don't want an 8-year-old having to deal with the moral consequences of those decisions. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's something that like
it's mature thinking, put it that way.
yes, and so if I saw a 10-year-old having to watch that, a parent who's not in the game would go, it's nothing. He's making a decision between A and B. You know, he's not pulling the trigger, but his character's making that decision. That sort of stuff might not flag anything for violence. It might not flag anything for promiscuity or racism or whatever, but it's still a very adult decision that games, one of the things I love about gaming is they give me the opportunity to play out a lot of like situations, fantasies, all that I would never get to experience.
Yes.
100%. That's one of the, honestly, the biggest joys of gaming. I have slayed dragons and killed zombies and saved civilizations and flown rocket ships to the moon at light speed. I will never get to do that in real life. That's one of the huge joys of gaming. But I do understand that there are censorship boards and there are people who understand at what age those need to be tiered for people to understand what the consequences of their decisions. And I think it's too easy. We go, age is about sex, violence, drugs, all that sort of stuff. But a lot of it is just the thematics are sometimes complex.
Well, it's a little bit like TV viewing and movie watching. There are times in your family life where you say, well, your kids can watch certain TV programs. And then you get to a point, and we got to that point when our eldest son was 13, and he wasn't allowed to watch a certain program because it was very advanced, mature content.
Yeah.
And he came home one day and he said, everybody in the playground is talking about that series because they're allowed to watch it, and I cannot engage in that conversation because I don't watch it. So I'm actually on the outside. And as parents, we had to make a decision at that point as to whether we would now bow to allowing him to watch. And we chose to, but we watched with him so we could have adult conversation around the very, very complex storyline that was going on there.
Yeah.
So that he got the storyline in the context of our value system, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then he was back in the fray, in the social world, in the social mix. So I think parents do get faced with those kind of critical moments where they have to make a choice and a decision. It's easy.
I think with gaming, it's too often
we're watching
with gaming. Sorry, just to add on with gaming, I think parents, because they go, I don't understand gaming, so I'm not going to step into that space. So I just go, it's games. What's the difference between a Mario or a GTA? It's all just video games.
Yeah, GTA be Grand Theft Auto, just for our viewers.
Yeah, and synonymously known as a fairly violent kind of like game because you play as a gangster who's selling drugs and doing.
You're the perpetrator of the crime, whether it be a hijacking or whether it be a murder or whether it be a robbery or whether it be a rape. You are actually the perpetrator of the crime.
Yeah, I won't go so far as rape because that's a bit. You've never had to do that in the game, and I'll kind of like put my hand up there to say that's never had to happen. But yes, you had to murder occasionally and deal drugs and that. And like I said, for an adult to understand that this is not real and it's just like playing out a fantasy or playing out like what it would be like. In the same way as if you watch Breaking Bad, it's a show about a chemistry teacher who becomes a drug dealer. Like, it's good entertainment. It's one of the highest rated shows of all time. Yeah. But it's not something you would have your 10-year-old watch.
Yeah. Excuse my dog barking in the background, but we are at home this morning.
No problem.
Right, so carrying on. What sort of, there's lots of choice when it comes to games. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I have you here today is because I cannot keep up with all the real games and toys as well as being an expert at all the different games that are coming out because I don't know how many new releases there are every year. So what are some of your favorites when it comes to games for younger audiences at the moment?
Yeah, okay. So I think first and foremost is when they're young, especially very young, like my kid's 4, a lot of the stuff is just about, I think we're trying to oversell sometimes the education factor. Sometimes it really just is about how can kids have fun. I think it's so weird for me that, suddenly gaming needs to be about, you can make a career, you can make a living, and some kids are earning millions, winning tournaments. And like, at what point do we just go, you play games to have fun? And if there's a social element to it and you're learning with friends and you're picking up hand-eye coordination, those are added benefits. But I think too often parents will try and oversell the education factor, when at the end of the day, they're not trying to oversell the education factor of, hey, John, go play outside, go climb a tree. No one's expecting your kid to be a professional tree climber or an Olympian or a mountain climber. They're just going, you're going outside to have fun. That's the only thing I'm hoping you gain from it, is go have fun. Entertain yourself, hopefully be tired, and so you have a nap in the afternoon. But at the end of the day, I think try not to bite too much into the education factor. Like when guys are trying to sell, they'll learn their ABCs and math and all. That's inherent in gaming. Gaming teaches logic. Gaming teaches kind of competitive, teaches you tactics, teaches you all sorts of things. Heck, I'm writing a book on all the things I've learned from gaming, and not just the ABCs, the actual life lessons. And I think, if we focus on the 10 and younger space, I know we spoke quite highly of Nintendo Switch. I think a lot of the games they do there, because they tie into the functionality of the controllers, do a really good job of getting players used to the hand-eye coordination required, the micro kind of skills required to use a controller, by doing highly gesticulated kind of hand movements or that. So with that in mind, I think, look, it's not that PlayStation, Xbox, which we chatted about last time, don't do that stuff. I think that their focus is more on a mainstream and then hardcore games, and the kids stuff is like an afterthought.
Yeah, an add-on.
So I'll talk about PlayStation. I think the one thing they do really well is a series of games within their staple called Play Link. And what's great is it uses your cell phone as the controller. It's a very intuitive touchscreen controllers. You download the game, then everyone on their phone downloads the apps, and then you can play on there. And there's some really good games for adults as well, like After Party, like kind of after dinner, as you would play a board game, a Trivial Pursuit.
Or charades, or something like that.
Yeah. But you're using your cell phone controller, so it allows you a lot more functionality, because you can draw, take photos, send stuff, and it's a lot of fun. But there are a lot of games on Play Link. So if you just go on the PlayStation Network store and check out Play Link, there are a whole bunch of good games there. But I want to focus mostly on Nintendo in terms of some of the games that they offer. Mm-hmm. Highly recommend Mario Party. It came out, I think, 2 years ago. It's essentially a board game with the Nintendo characters. So there's Mario and Luigi and Princess and Bowser and all the characters. And you roll virtual dice, which then moves your character along. But it's interactive, because if you land on a certain square, you have to interact, do certain things. There are good squares, bad squares, like any board game. And the goal of the game is to collect coins, which you then, if you get to a certain point, can buy stars. The player with the most stars at the end wins. But it does a great job of what they call in the gaming industry RNG, which is random number generation. Which what happens is there's a certain level of balancing of the game, so that even if you are winning, hands down, you're a professional gamer and you're beating your 4-year-old like it's nobody's business, the game will do its best to help your 4-year-old win.
Okay, so there's a handicapping built in.
Yes, but it's not overt, as in if you get 100 hit points, he'll get 200. It's just that all of a sudden he'll get better dice rolls, or he'll land on better luck squares, just to try and balance it. Okay. Great fun. I played with my 4-year-old. He loves it. Then what happens at the end of every round, there are mini games where you win points. Some of the mini games are a bit more complex, but then there I tend to help him. I put down my controller and help him a bit. But yeah, really good fun. And it's one of those games where pretty much anyone can play. I mean, my wife plays. She's not a huge gamer. Loves playing. If we have to jump onto a little side rant, would much rather my kid spends his hour of screen time a day playing video games than watching TV. I just think it's a far more active engagement with the screen. He's up and down, he's dancing, he's moving, we're having fun, there's banter, who's winning, who's losing. Whereas with the TV, it's just so much more passive. So I always find it.
Yeah,
I find it so strange when parents are like, "Oh, you let your kids play games," and and you let your kids watch TV. I'd much rather my kids play games. Once again, as we said, it's about moderation. I highly recommend those games. Once they're a little bit more skilled, so probably 5 and upwards, maybe 7 years old, the Mario games themselves. So there's Mario Odyssey, which is it's phenomenal. It's a really well put together game. And then from a creativity point of view, 2 games. The one I'd highly recommend is Minecraft. which I'm not sure if, I think you can get it on Nintendo Switch. I know you can get it on PlayStation and Xbox. It's really a great intro into programming, which, as we know, is probably going to replace most schools' kind of second or third language, because it teaches you how to build things from. It's a visual representation of building, but like it's very closely linked to the mindset that goes into programming, as in using X and Y to create Z. And so
just,
sorry.
Just for our audience, Minecraft is actually about building cities, and not just what the building looks like, but the sewers and the electricity and all the stuff that goes to support that whole city. So it's almost layered, isn't it, Gareth? And that's why it's complex. In fact,
it's actually better than that, because Minecraft, not only does it give you a sandbox kind of mode where we use that term when we say, hey, it's a sandbox, build whatever you want. So when Nikki plays it, she's building a massive factory. When I play it, I'm building like a zoo. Someone else builds a castle. You can do your own things, but you can invite people onto your server so they can play with you. So that we're all together building our castle. So my son Ethan can jump on, I can jump on. We're all building together. Maybe like who can build a tower the fastest, make a bit of competition, do whatever, find resources. Hey, you're looking for diamonds, I found some, I bring them to you to help you build. There's a lot of like co-op nature, like cooperative nature. The other thing is that people can upload their levels. So a lot of people who like spend hours building these, innate kind of like crystal towers and amazing structures. If that's not you, you just want to explore what they built, you can download it and you can play around. Guys build fully functioning factories. Didn't realize how alliterative that was, but they you can sit around and play in that. There's also survival mode, which is quite fun, where you literally land on an island. There's nothing. There's like a deserted island. There's literally a palm tree and a cave, and you got to like basically immediately start building a structure to survive the night, because at night the creepers come, which are these like monsters who will eat you. And so you build a little hut, you survive the night, and the next day obviously you can't just survive in your hut all day, you got to go find food. So you do some fishing, maybe you find some seeds, you plant some, you look after them. It's nighttime again, let's get safe. Okay, we discover fire so we can chase away the creepers at night, and slowly you start building, and it's really
problem solving, because different scenarios 100%. Require different problem solving mentality and different solutions.
100%.
Also, just to say that Minecraft is used in many schools, particularly overseas, in European schools and American schools, to teach a lot of stuff. So it's one of those ones that does have that educational bent while it's still highly entertaining.
Yes, but I think where it's always been sold is it's education is the side effect. It's not the agenda.
Right.
Because I think too often it's like educational games, and I remember growing up with educational games. I'm a really decent typer, yes, because of educational games, because those were the only games I was allowed to play, like at school, with like type as fast as you can. As the monsters are coming closer, you type the words that they represent to like chase them away. But at least I was playing games. There was no other choice. If you went to the computer labs, those were the only games on the school computers were educational games.
Yeah.
But they're terrible games.
Okay. Can I just throw in something here in terms of educational games? Because particularly in that like early preschool phase, you've got something called Reading Eggs. And Reading Eggs is a phenomenal game that really does inspire reading skills, and because you're leveling up all the time and you're getting rewards, you want to go to another level, and it's called repetition. Actually, at the end of the day, it's repetition, which is wiring the brain for easier learning later. So if your child is learning how to read a book and you're doing Reading Eggs at the same time, it's a fantastic way to give them extra hours. The 10,000 hour rule of getting really good at something. You got to do many repetitions. That's how learning happens. And I know that's why gamers who are really, really good are good, because they
put the hours in.
Put the hours in. I mean, your top gamers are putting the hours in that a rugby professional would put in, or more. And then you've got like mathletics, for example, which is the online maths game that many schools actually subscribe to, and your child can go and do 10 minutes a day and just keep honing those skills.
Yeah,
we're not talking about those particularly right now. Those are very educationally focused.
Yes, and in the same way as when your son came to you saying, "Mom, Dad, I don't get to watch the show. Everyone's talking about it," but you go, "Yeah, but you get to watch the education channel." He'd be like, roll his eyes at you and go, like, "Do you want me to be even more uncool than I am already because I can't watch the show?" Like, everyone's talking about their favorite show, and I'm going, "Yeah, but on the learning channel they had XYZ." I'm not saying the one replaces the other, but we have to understand these games have been designed with gameplay at the heart, education as the side effect.
Right.
And so I think it's a case of going maybe balancing the two. If you do your 10 minutes of mathematics, you can play for half an hour on Minecraft. They're meant to be fun. The benefits are auxiliary. Right. Whereas I think, I don't even think I know, those education games are just not as fun because they don't disguise learning enough. Like, okay. I challenge anyone as an adult to go play those games and see how much fun they are. Like, I guess you're learning and it's more fun than having to, I don't know, like
write it on a piece of paper.
100%. It's more fun than writing, fair enough. But it's not entertainment. So don't try and subvert your child's entertainment with education. Like, that should be part of their education time, not their entertainment time.
Not their entertainment time. Okay, back to entertainment.
Yes.
We've been talking about Mario Brothers. Are there any other titles that you want to mention?
Yeah, so what I was saying is what's great, as a segue from Mario Party for like a family game, you've got the Minecraft from play by yourself, but also can play with others, educational thing. But what's great is there's a game called Mario Maker. And what it allows you to do is it's given you all the assets of the previous Mario games, and we know there have been hundreds. So from the bad guys to the good guys to the fire pits to the whatever, and it just allows you to make your own stage. And for me, my eyes were the size of saucers when I heard about this, because as a kid, I used to make my own Mario stages on paper. I used to draw them in a notebook, cut out my own little Mario character, and he would jump and dance and do his little thing to get through the level. Obviously, he made it every time because I made up the level, so I knew how, and I was basically controlling the physics and everything. Now I can make my own stages. And the kind of stuff that's available online, it's amazing. Guys have redone entire movies. You can get like the Matrix trilogy that someone's redone in a Mario stage, and your character jumps around, does all stuff, and it's like a fan service. They are incredibly difficult stages. They are really easy stages. Some are puzzle stages. Some are speed runs, as in try and do as fast as you can. There's so much content, so you can make it your own, or you can download it, share it with friends, like from across the world. So you make a profile. You can. There's your little caricature. You make a little avatar. You put your name and where you're from, and so you can go, cool. I want to connect with other South Africans. I can download maps from other South Africans. I can download from Norwegians or Spanish people or whatever, like across the world. It's really great to be able to share. And then after you finish the stage, you can rank it. So you can go, I'm giving this a 7 out of 10 rating so other people can see the good, the difficult, the impossible. And so that's really great from if you want to expand your kind of, I suppose, a game that like will reach a lot of ages, because there you can go download levels that my 4-year-old can beat, but then I can get one for me at 35 that has been gaming for 20 years who will struggle to beat. It's a real challenge. And so a game like that, has a lot of value for money.
Okay. Beyond Mario Brothers, is there any other title that you'd like to add?
Look, the Xbox does a great job of something called the Kinect. And it's how do I describe it? It's got a camera that you attach to the console, and then basically it does a scan of your body, and then you can move around, and it uses your body as the controller. Okay. So you might be playing dodgeball and you've got to move. There's a game called Just Dance where you legitimately dance to popular kind of pop songs, and it kind of syncs in with the music and the moves. So it's a great way to have fun and embarrass yourself, but something that like mom and dad can join in without having to buy extra controllers because it just scans your body. That's a great kind of party game and good active sort of game that's fun. From a PlayStation point of view, VR they say you shouldn't let kids under 10 do VR, but like some of the VR experiences, so virtual reality experience on the PlayStation are very, very cool. There's a game called Beat Saber. So you basically get these two sabers that your virtual reality controllers control, and then these different colored blocks come towards you, and you have your right controller is red maybe, and your left controller is blue, and you have to hit them on the beat, and it's all synced up to kind of high energy music, and a lot of fun to not only watch other people play, but to play yourself. Like I said, VR, unfortunately, a little bit of an older crowd, not much older, but they do say that I think kids under 10 struggle to distinguish between what's real and what's not real from a VR perspective.
Yeah.
But a lot of cool stuff there.
Okay. I want to throw something into the mix here that I looked at earlier this year, and it was an enormous amount of fun. And let me tell you, my eight-year-old nephew just goes back to it again and again. And it's the Nintendo Labo
I was about to ask, yeah.
And this is a kit that enables you to create reinforced cardboard constructions that then link to your Nintendo. It's the Nintendo Switch, am I right?
Yes, it is.
Right.
But only the Switch standard. So if you've got the Switch Lite, it doesn't work with that because you can't detach the controllers.
So the standard Switch. So what I like is that it's a hybrid product, and they're not easy constructions, let me tell you.
Well, some are. So they're graded. So you can get some really complex ones, yeah.
Yeah. So they come with instructions, this reinforced cardboard. You create your construction, and then you use the controllers from your Nintendo, and they become the remote control for the aeroplane with the joystick, or the car, or I can't remember what else is in that kit. Is there?
So the original one comes with a fishing rod. There's a fishing rod. There's a piano, a steering wheel. There's a whole bunch. There's about 7 different ones.
The steering wheel has an accelerator.
Yes. And a throttle, like a motorbike throttle.
Yeah, like a joystick kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so whatever you're doing, you can actually see on your screen. But you're actually physically in 3D interacting with a physical object, but you're controlling the game on the screen. And there's a certain appeal to that. And certainly if you're a parent who is maybe, on the borderline, should I, shouldn't I, that's probably a nice entry level as well.
Yeah, and it's a great space between the learning and like when you build Lego, it's part of it is the synergy you're building with your son, daughter, whatever, you're making it together. Yeah. And then afterwards, then the imagination comes alive and they play it. They play with whatever they built, and then later they're building different things. I think Nintendo did a great job.